But you, the WBC, think that you better than everybody, don't you? So since you, the WBC, and you got the green belt, which don't mean it, and real belt is the ring belt, which is free, motherfucker. Who you talking about?
Can you talk about the difficulty of this decision?
Yes, it's very sad. It is very complicated to have to vacate a title, to withdraw recognition of a champion hurts very deeply.
And this is what TKO is saying. Why do you have to pay them? Don't pay them. Don't adhere to their crazy.
Terence Crawford fired back at Mauricio Sulaiman, saying he can claim the belt any time since Sulaiman has been demanding a pointless $100,000 fee from Shakur. Crawford pointed out that the title is just a trophy anyway. Sulaiman had stripped Shakur after earlier taking Crawford's WBC title, accusing them of breaking rules and missing payments, which he used as justification to revoke their championship status.
$100,000. What makes you so motherfucking better than any of the other sanctioned bodies? Huh? To that question. What makes you better than the WBO, the IBF, or the WBA?
Shakur Stevenson vented on X, saying he just paid these guys after his last fight and doesn't see why he should hand over another $100,000 just because of their issues with Bud. Terence Crawford added that officials enjoy a comfortable life off fighters, while the athletes endure the punishment and still have to pay unnecessary WBC sanctioning fees.
Can take the fucking belt. It's a trophy anyway.
Shakur Stevenson expressed his frustration, saying he'd rather give $100,000 to his daughter than to crooks who don't deserve it, pointing out that the WBC had nothing to do with his fight and it's clearly bothering them. He added, "Take your belt, it doesn't define me." Roy Jones Jr. weighed in, saying that no matter the disputes, stripping a champion of their title is unfair, disrespectful, and makes the organization look bad.
WBC super lightweight, then he unified and became undisputed in welterweight against WBC champion, who was Spence, in a great fight. He petitioned to fight a final elimination bout in super welterweight against Madrimov and remain champion in welter. The WBC supported him. He did not comply with the rules. Then he moves up to super middle and makes the fight of the century, beats Canelo, makes $50 million or around that. The WBC absolutely is not going to charge 3% of such an amount. We made a very clear 0.6%, which is $300,000.
The WBC stirred controversy with Terence Crawford when he refused to pay a $300,000 fee after his fight with Canelo Alvarez, and many agreed he was completely within his rights. Crawford questioned why he should give such a huge sum when other sanctioning bodies like the IBF, WBA, and WBO never raised any issues, simply taking their share without complaint. This highlighted the arbitrary demands the WBC sometimes imposes. He stressed that his fight earnings were his own business and that Mauricio Sulaiman, the WBC president, had no real reason to demand extra money. Even when Crawford offered the standard 3% of his earnings, the WBC rejected it and demanded 6%, far above what other organizations required. Analysts added that sanctioning bodies often do very little beyond awarding the belt, making such high fees seem unfair and hard to justify.
You know, and guess who got to pay for it? Us fighters. We paying for y'all to come out here, have the time of y'all life, stay in the best hotels of y'all life, and it's all done on our dime. It's done on our dime. Do that sound right to y'all? It's crazy, ain't it? We the one out there getting battered, knocked upside our head, and every time we step foot in the ring, we gotta pay them a sanction fee like they the government. We getting taxed. It's crazy.
Shakur Stevenson remains undefeated, and no one has ever beaten him in the ring. Yet the WBC declared his title vacant after he moved up in weight, saying his absence left a gap in the division. This allowed other fighters to compete for the belt even though Stevenson never lost it, making it clear that the title was vacated administratively, not through a defeat. His career and record remain intact, as this was a technical decision by the WBC rather than a reflection of his skill. Stevenson's achievements are unaffected, and his undefeated status continues to establish him as one of boxing's top fighters.
A lot of people were really upset about, and
I don't really want to get too deep into that. All I'm gonna say is it's wrong for him to be stripped if he didn't even defend the title.
Yeah.
That's all.
Analyst Oladipo called the WBC's decision to strip Shakur Stevenson of his 135 pounds title unusual and controversial. Stevenson, who is undefeated, had planned to move up in weight temporarily but intended to return to the 135 pounds division. Despite this, the WBC declared his title vacant, saying his absence created a gap and allowing other fighters to compete for the belt. Oladipo pointed out that this shows the WBC's sometimes rigid and bureaucratic approach. He also noted that even though Stevenson's last fight wasn't for the WBC title, the organization still required him to pay 50% of the sanctioning fee as if it had been a title defense.
And shady as you can possibly get. And for the WBC to do this now, when sanctioning bodies are under attack, when the sanctioning system is under attack, this is a glaring example about why maybe they shouldn't exist. Maybe they shouldn't be in boxing if you are going to reach into the pocket of a fighter like Shakur Stevenson, ask for $100,000. According to Shakur, there's been no comment on this from the WBC. I asked for one. I talked to a member of their staff, said, tell me what's going on here. And all I've seen is the Instagram post of the WBC saying they were stripping him. To reach into the pocket of a fighter for a fight that you have nothing to do with and asking for $100,000. I don't care how much money Shakur Stevenson made that night. That's his money. That belongs in his pocket. The WBC had nothing to do with it. It is disgusting. Disgusting that they stripped Shakur Stevenson of that belt. And Shakur would be right to never fight for a WBC.
The analyst considers this policy excessive, especially since Stevenson never lost his belt in the ring. Oladipo also notes that the WBC's treatment of Stevenson echoes past controversies with other fighters, showing how sanctioning fees and administrative actions can create friction between champions and the organization. While Stevenson's career and undefeated record remain intact, the situation raises questions about the fairness and transparency of the WBC's rules.
To me, I think Terence Crawford's well within his rights to say that I ain't giving you $300,000. Why? Like, why am I giving you $300,000? What for? And don't talk about my purse. Like Mauricio Sullivan saying Terence Crawford made 50 million. What's that got to do with you? No. And what I like as well about Terence, he said, look, I gave the IBF money, I gave the WBA money, I gave the WBO money. We haven't heard any of those organizations moan about the amount Terence Crawford gave to them. They're like, oh, we'll take it. Because ultimately, what are they doing? Apart from strapping a belt around your waist, what are they doing? And we'll get to that as well. So he then tried to give the WBC that amount of money as well. They clearly said, no, we're not taking that. We want a bit more. And then they're like, okay, normally we take 3%, but 3% of 50 million would have been too much. So you know what? We'll allow you to pay us.
The analyst points out that Shakur Stevenson has always been clear that he is a 135 pounds fighter, moving up in weight only for specific fights, like his recent dominant win over former unified lightweight and WBO junior welterweight champion Teofimo Lopez. Stevenson now holds a record of 22 wins, 2 losses, and 13 knockouts. Despite this clarity, the WBC acted quickly to vacate his 135 pounds title, showing little patience for him to decide his next move, even though he consistently stated he plans to compete at 135 pounds unless a special opportunity comes along.
Be ruled inactive at that weight class. So, despite nobody beating Shakur Stevenson, he is an undefeated fighter. Nobody took his belt. But for whatever reason, the WBC has decided him moving up has created some type of void and have now made and declared his title vacant, allowing the division to successfully move forward with new contenders. So in this case, Stevenson, he didn't lose his belt in the ring. Nobody beat him. He's still undefeated. The title was vacated administratively, which is a difference. And we need to establish the facts from the fiction. So nobody beat Stevenson. It doesn't really hurt his career, his official box rec. And it says he's suspended by the commission indefinitely. So I'm not sure if he has some type of injury, but usually when it says indefinitely, they got to get clearance from a doctor to come back. And again, this could be possibly from his fight with Shakur Stevenson. So this is a developing story, and we'll see ultimately how it plays out, what the WBC officially decides to do in terms of who's next and what's next. So what are the facts? What does this mean? Shakur Stevenson was not stripped for any type of misconduct. Shakur was not penalized per se, and Shakur Stevenson is not suspended. So it simply reflects the WBC has considered him no longer active at lightweight at this time. A bit political. That's the only thing that I can think of.
Stevenson has also shown he's willing to fight Lamont Roach, whom the WBC recently ranked number 2 at 135 pounds, and he has never suggested he plans to stay at 140 pounds permanently. Analysts emphasize that the WBC's rushed administrative actions ignored Stevenson's intentions and undefeated status, raising concerns about the organization's decision-making and how it treats top fighters.
Shakur Stevenson blast WBC and responds to being stripped of a 135-pound title. This is a bit wild. It's a bit wild. And the reason it's a bit wild, there's so many different reasons actually, but one of the biggest reasons is that Shakur has always said, I want to go up to fight Teo, but I want to come back down to 135. So basically, he's almost telling the WBC, let me go up there, I will come back down. And with what the WBC are going through right now, and this battle with Zuffa, where, you know, they've got some real big players and power over there, and they're saying F the belts, and WBC are fighting, saying none of the belts mean stuff. The last thing you want to do is have a public spat, a public back and forth with one of the biggest names in boxing right now. Shakur Stevenson is one of the biggest names in boxing. And the thing about Shakur as well, you piss him off, this guy will go straight to social media and make it known that he's pissed off. And that's what he's done.
From an analyst's perspective, Shakur Stevenson moving up to the 140 pounds division offers far more exciting opportunities for boxing. While he could return to 135 pounds, that seems less compelling after his dominant win over former 2-division champion Teofimo Lopez. Analysts note that the WBO title and lineage belt he now holds carry more weight at 140 pounds, and competing in this division opens doors to high-profile matchups, including a potential fight against WBO welterweight champion Devin Haney, which could be one of boxing's biggest bouts in 2026. The 140 pounds division also features other top fighters considered part of boxing's elite, giving Stevenson meaningful, competitive fights that elevate both his career and the sport.
Wanted for him, or from him, sorry, which was $100,000. Now, a lot of you might say, well, one second, his last fight wasn't for the WBC, it was for the WBO and the ring title. Why did the WBC want any money from him? The WBC have a clause, I think it's either 7.3 or 7.4, yeah, where even if you do not fight for the WBC belt, if you're a champion of their belt, i.e. which Shakur Stevenson was, you have to pay 50% of the sanctioning fee as though the WBC belt was on the line. Does that make sense? Let me see if I can find it. I'm going to find it and read it out to, so I'm not paraphrasing, because this is quite important and I think it's a joke. I think it's a joke. I really do. All right. Okay, yeah. All right, rule 7.3. I'm going to put this on the screen as well.
Although Keyshawn Davis currently holds the WBO mandatory spot at 140 pounds, a fight with Stevenson seems unlikely, showing the tension between mandatory obligations and more appealing matchups. Analysts conclude that Stevenson's move to 140 pounds strengthens his legacy, sets him up for bigger challenges, and delivers more exciting fights for fans, all while keeping him among boxing's top undefeated fighters.
Stevenson made it abundantly clear that he's a 135-pounder. He's going up in weight just for situational fights. He just defeated 2-division world champion, former unified lightweight, and now former WBO junior welterweight superstar Teofimo Lopez in dominating fashion. He's now 22 wins, 2 losses, no draws, 13 wins by way of knockout. After a beautiful performance, a dominating performance, the WBC, in a rush to do nothing, he wants to do next. This dude, Shakur, has told the world, I'm 135 pounds. I plan on competing at 135 unless there's a situation that presents itself. You got Lamont Roach, who you elevated to the number 2 fighter in the WBC at 135. Right? Shakur says yesterday, I'm willing to fight Lamont Roach. We're going to make it happen. Right? Now,
40-pound division. I think there's more attractive fights in the 140-pound division. Because if you would have stood, if you would have gone back to the lightweight division, Muay Thai would probably be the most intriguing matchup. And I don't know if after beating Teofimo Lopez, that I think that would have been going backwards. I believe that the WBO strap that he got right now and the lineage title that he got on is more valuable in the 140-pound division than going back to the 135-pound division. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that he could also petition to be the WBO mandatory to the welterweight champion in the WBO in Devin the Dream Haney. I think that would be an attractive matchup in 2026 following that type of performance versus Teos of the Four Kings, the Fab Five, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's just better for the sport of boxing. That's better for Shakur Stevenson. And I think that's a very winnable fight right there. We know that Keyshawn Davis is in WBO mandatory position right now in the 140-pound division, but we all know that they're not going to fight. So, we all could keep on asking Keyshawn and Shakur, when you going to fight? Are you going to fight? Both of these guys already saying they're never going to fight again. So, Keyshawn Davis is going to be moving up to the 147-pound division, right? So, unless that Tank was active at 135, that's the only fight that the world want to see at 135 is Shakur versus Tank. We're not going to see Kid Austin versus Shakur Stevenson at 135. That Shakur, the Kid Austin, he lost that opportunity.
That's a wrap for today's video. Stay tuned for more, and we'll see you next time.